name is Jeremiah,
And I'm Sarah.
and we want to invite you to Cooking with Friends. It's a 7-series plant-based cooking event, kind of based on Sarah and I's experiences and our adventure towards healthier living.
So if you are following us online, please go to Facebook and make sure that we know that you're there so we can send you information. We have stuff that we have handed out to everybody. And you can also have comments there, and Michelle in the back is going to be monitoring those. And now I need 2 volunteers who want to cook tonight with us. Michelle, please. Miss Betty, do you want to cook with us? You don't have to. Okay, awesome. So if you want, what we'll do, Michelle, meet me over here at the kitchen, and we're going to wash hands and get aprons on, and Jeremiah's going to do a small introduction.
All right, cool.
This is echoey.
So they're going to do that, and then
No, it's going to be
I just
great.
want to say, just like everybody, Sarah and I have had a unique experience, which we'll kind of go into later on. But I will say that letting go of your traditional eating habits, letting go of those comfort habits, and those tendencies, it isn't easy. It can be a humbling experience. It can be kind of scary, and it can be kind of emotionally painful. Our habits, whether they are good habits or bad habits, positive or negative, they're comforting to us. And so in that sense of comfort, it offers predictability in kind of a chaotic and uncertain world. We've had a lot of friends over the past 2 years that have kind of taken a negative road to health because it's convenient food, it's comfort food, it's no time in the kitchen, or they're just stressed out. It's just taking them. Food has a way of taking you to a comfort place, whether it's good or bad for you. But letting go, just like Sarah and I found out, can be pretty awesomely rewarding, and it's a liberating experience. It's like taking a bandage off of a wound that allows that wound to heal. It's kind of tough ripping that off, but once you get to that point to where you're ready to rip off that bandage, you can heal yourself, we feel, through a plant-based diet. Pardon me, I'm looking at my notes here. So we feel that plant-based diet is not only healthy, but it can offer a pretty cool adventure in the kitchen. Sarah and I have 2 young kids. Our kitchen is always chaotic and hectic at all times. In fact, we talked about having a cooking show, Cooking with Toddlers, or Chaos Kitchen, or something like that. Sarah and I use our diet and our plant-based knowledge of cooking to go on dates. We go on these adventures. We don't even leave the comfort of our chaotic kitchen because it's kind of hard to sometimes. And so we can go all around the world tasting different types of food, different ways of cooking, plant-based, and like I say, never leave the comfort of our kitchen. And so allowing yourself to look for a change is a huge initial step. So again, we're glad that everyone is here and is eager to learn. And whether you're already doing a plant-based diet, a mostly plant-based diet, or you're here to learn, Sarah and I are always learning, whether it's from magazine articles, a newspaper, or the internet, our friends. We're always learning. We're always trying to find these new cooking adventures. And so whether you're trying to establish healthier eating routines, or you have more nutritional goals that you're trying to meet, or you just want to simply learn more, it's no accident that you're here, and you'll find that you'll start living healthier in body, you'll start living healthier in mind, and the blessing for Sarah and I, we're living healthier in faith. And so, like I say, there's no accident that you're here, and we believe that a plant-based diet is not only healthier, it's just a good way of life. Is there anything that you want to interject at all?
No, I think that's perfect.
All right, so just imagine for a second you're living on a high-salt, high-fat, high-sugar diet, and it's easy for Sarah and I to imagine that because about 4 or 5 years ago we were living that. We thought we were eating healthy, eating organic, but we're still kind of eating the wrong kind of stuff sometimes. And so if you can still imagine with me you're in that situation and someone says to you, hey, you need to start eating a little healthier, and they hand you this high fiber veggie sandwich full of herbs and avocado. And to some of us, that sandwich will probably sound pretty appealing. I mean, it sounds really appealing to me, but not back then. And so, but for some of us, it may sound impossible to even to make that step towards that different type and style of eating. And that's why we're here. And again, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. So it's not your fault if you've tried a vegetarian diet or a plant-based diet or tried to switch this lifestyle, because these days our foods are unnaturally modified to be very unnaturally stimulating. Our foods are engineered to our taste. So if you tried to break away from what you're doing, or you just thrown your hands up in the air and you've given up and say, well, there's too much information out there, I don't know where to start, again, you're in the right place. Like I say, your tastes are accustomed to a diet of foods that are unnaturally stimulating and perfectly optimized for your pleasure. Even a satisfying and delicious meal could probably taste pretty bland at first. But there is hope, and I sincerely hope that you can see that hope tonight and the things that we're going to prepare tonight. So here's an example. All we ask you to do is just allow your taste buds to change, allow your mind to wrap around the thought of changing and switching to a plant-based diet. And here's an example. Just 2 weeks ago, Sarah made an amazing, well, I didn't think it was going to be amazing, but it was a cauliflower soup. And I enjoy cauliflower. I like the texture of it. I like the taste of it in salads or whatever. But when it came to a soup, here's this white soup that is there. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to enjoy this, but how am I going to tell Sarah that I don't enjoy this? And she says, well, just try it. So I tried the soup. I wrapped my head around this, and it was absolutely amazing. And then she said, well, you didn't finish putting everything on this soup. I was like, what else goes on it? She's like, well, these roasted pumpkin seeds, the pepitas, and this pomegranate you need to put on it. So here we have this white soup, these green pepita seeds, and this red pomegranate. And I'm adventurous, but I thought, okay, this is not going to be good. I was completely wrong. It's probably one of my favorite soups. We actually had to go back to the store, get another pomegranate because we ran out, so I could finish up all the leftovers. So just like I say, your tastes will adjust if you give them time. You got to rip that Band-Aid off, that bandage off, allow them to adjust. And they can adjust faster than you can imagine. And once you've stripped away all the junk food and you've gone from the old into the new, you will find enjoyment, contentment, and just excitement in the kitchen. It doesn't really matter how long it takes to prepare these meals, because sometimes it is time consuming. And as my father-in-law says, good food takes time. And so if you're willing to take this journey with us, you'll find that you will likely even find a deeper sense of faith, just like Sarah and I have. And we've been extremely blessed for that. And we are blessed for our church family that is here. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Sarah and let her get started.
Wonderful. Well, for those of you cooking at home, we're going to go ahead and turn up to about medium high and get things heating up. So I think about 6 on this. I think you turn it sort of like there. All right. So this soup has sort of made a transformation. When we first made this lifestyle switch, we were using recipes that were predominantly Whole30 because we were still eating meat, but we were trying to get away from the unhealthy ways that I was cooking with several sticks of butter and things along those lines. And we were making this healthy lifestyle change. And so I was using Whole30 recipes and pulling them up. So this originally started as a chicken pot pie soup. And then when we dropped out the chicken part, I just replaced it with vegetable broth. And so it's sort of a good illustration of how you can take one of your favorite recipes and then modify it as you change and as your tastes change. And so for those of you who are cooking at home and for those of you who are here that may make this soup later, if you would like to use a little bit of oil to get started, you can. If you don't want to do that and you are trying to go 100% plant-based, whole foods, then just omit that. And then we have broth, so we'll show you on the camera. When there starts to sort of get a browning on the bottom of the pan, you just add a little bit of broth, and that sort of helps start to build your base for the soup. Okay?
And like to say, we're meeting you where you are because that's where we were met. So we were cooking with oil, so to make that transition is kind of hard sometimes,
Right.
but we're just trying to meet everybody on this even playing field. And then if you want to transition away from the oil, you can. And so a whole foods plant-based diet doesn't use a lot of oil.
Okay, so we're going to put in the carrots, celery, and onions. There is a little bit in there, yes. And we'll just go ahead and give that a good stir around. I don't know how long these are going to take
how
to
much
heat up.
carrot versus onion and celery have you put into this dish?
So the recipe calls for about 3 large carrots, 3 stalks of celery, and then 1 large onion. And so that's what we have in each of these pots that will hopefully start to heat up here soon.
Yes.
Yes, hello.
When we buy the vegetables, are we supposed to just get what's on the shelf, or are we looking for organic? Like, does it make a difference
So,
to use?
turn it all the way.
We try to go more organic, but sometimes you can, and sometimes it's just a mix match. And we try to get as much organic as we can, but sometimes that's just simply not the case.
I don't know offhand, but there is something that they call the dirty dozen, and those fruits and vegetables you should always buy organic, but that's something that you can Google and look up specific. The rest of them are sort of hit and miss. If you can get them organic, I
Getting
think.
hot?
Is it? I'm not feeling anything yet. Sorry, technical difficulties. But
They were working
yeah, so-
earlier. We almost made waffles on them.
Oh, you have to turn it on. Mine's on though, and it's still not owning. There's no light, right? Oh, does that change anything? No light? Okay. So is this the issue then, maybe? Well, nothing like having a cooking diet. We're going to apparently go raw tonight.
It's going raw.
Even healthier.
So we promised this was all
Yeah, right.
working before.
No, no. So right now what we're going to do is we're going to saute this until we get to the point that the onions are starting to get translucent. And once that happens and things are sort of cooking, then we will put the garlic in just until it's fragrant. And then we will add the potatoes and the broth. There's no light at all.
Sorry, it's the first class. You have to have technical difficulties.
Just working the kinks
Yeah,
out.
here we go.
Aha,
That's on.
alrighty.
So these still.
Yep.
There's no light. Oh yeah,
There we
there's a
go.
light.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
It was this.
Tripped.
Yeah, those little
It
little
tripped
power
again.
strips.
Yeah, it tripped again. We're gonna have to plug it into a different one.
We have to do 2.
So we can do one here, and then we can do one in the back, and we can let
Okay,
yeah, you can just guide.
okay.
We can go back.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah, please.
absolutely.
Do you want to turn this one off? And we'll just cook on, we'll cook on yours.
Right, so now we know that we need to put them on two
Teresa.
different
Okay.
Yeah,
things.
So give us 2 seconds while we reset. I'm going to move
I can
this
take this in there.
section. We'll move all of this stuff
All right.
in to,
And just go ahead and put on like two from high, yeah?
thank you, Michelle. And if you can take that in, and then we've got the cream, the coconut cream that just needs to go in also.
All right, thank you.
And we'll just cook out here together. Oh, and here's their broth also. Let me run that in real quick. All right. And Teresa, actually with the number of people that we have, I don't know that we'll need to make that unless we want to just make it because it's already prepared and the food will go bad. So we'll go ahead and make it if you want to just listen.
Cool. All right, we're cooking with one hot pad right now. And so, yes. All right. So
All right, here we go.
the Dirty Dozen that,
So this is
that
on
Sarah was speaking of, that you should always try to get organic, sorry, Pastor Bob, would be strawberry, spinach, kale, collard greens, mustard greens. They all fall in that broadleaf section. Nectarines, apples, grapes, cherries, peaches, pears, bell and hot peppers, celery, and tomatoes. All the ingredients that we have tonight are organic. So no fear, there's no Dirty Dozen up here. The thin skins. So Nancy said it's typically things that with thin skins that you want to stay away, you want to get organic. Yes.
Okay, we're good. We'll bring it back out. Sorry, 2 seconds. We're going to bring it back out now. I think we finally got, this is everything that we need, and then I'm going to rewash my hands.
So Sarah's already, so in your recipe, you will have a cup of cashews, raw cashews. I'm not sure what it says on the recipe cards, but you do soak those cashews in warm water for a period of time. And then once they soak for a while, you drain that water off, and those go into a cup, into 1 can of coconut oil. Now, as far as a whole foods, plant-based diet, or not coconut oil, coconut milk, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a lot of coconut oil. Yeah, so coconut milk. So coconut milk does contain a fairly high amount of saturated fat, which is not all bad, but you want to use that sparingly. But for this particular recipe, and through this series of cooking events that we're doing, we're starting out very hearty because it's cold weather and hearty is good. And as we move into the spring, we're going to get lighter fare. So hopefully we will give you enough recipes to really push you through the entire year and encourage you to explore and discover all this stuff on your own.
Okay, so these are heating up.
Finally, let's go ahead and give them sort of a stir. And are there any questions or any comments at this point from anyone out there that may be watching or here in our live audience?
We got Teresa here.
So these actually have like a very small amount of oil because I wasn't sure how this was going to cook as far as being even or whatnot. So it has about less than a tablespoon of oil just in the bottom, and that's just going to sort of keep things from sticking. But from this point forward, we're going to be using broth when it looks like it's going to try to stick or as it sort of browns on the bottom of the pan. No. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, we did. We used this coconut.
Sun cocoa. So this is a sunflower oil and a coconut oil blend. We like this.
I mean, all oil is heavily processed,
yeah,
but
so
this is just our choice.
So we get this at Walmart, and Kroger and Food Line sell this brand as well. So it's we kind of switched away from stuff. We have an African gray parrot at home, and we use avocado oil at first, but then we found out that could be quite toxic to small birds.
As dangerous as Teflon.
Yeah, as dangerous as Teflon. So if you have birds, stay away from Teflon and stay away from avocado oil.
So hopefully these will heat up. So
And so just to reiterate something that we were preparing some soup beforehand, and I said, should I add more broth? And Sarah's like, absolutely not. We want to saute it. We don't want to boil it. So
Right.
I kind of got my hand smacked on that, but I'll just throw that in there. Let my lessons be your lessons. So
That's what this is all about,
That's right.
Yeah. All right, now we're sizzling, which is always a good sound to have when you're trying to cook. Well, hers is sizzling. Mine will hopefully be sizzling soon.
it was opposite earlier. Sarah's was sizzling and mine wasn't doing anything. And I was like, what is going on here?
Can we ask questions now?
Yeah,
Yeah, please,
absolutely.
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, okay.
Look how beautiful.
Talk about plant-based. I think about a garden where you have tomatoes and regular vegetables and plants. But that includes trees
So that would,
that have nuts.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So anything, so what is considered plant-based? Anything that's not meat?
anything is not meat. So you have two.
Or byproduct.
Or
So
byproduct,
like
or-
milk, cheese,
yeah,
things
things like
along
that.
those lines, eggs also.
And we'll go into our story later on, but so that's a very good question. So plant-based diet would be avoiding any types of meats, any types of dairy products, any types of eggs, and this includes fish as well. I've been this way for about a year now because we've slowly made a transition. We're slowly working more towards whole foods plant-based. So the difference between plant-based and whole foods plant-based
dad
is
has
you really wouldn't use any types of oils at all. And for some reason they say that honey is not on a whole foods plant-based diet. And I got this information from Forks Over Knives website. But I feel like if the honey is ethically sourced through a great apiary and they take care of their bees, I don't think that that's a problem, as long as you really know where the honey comes from. And we're in such a small community. We have such amazing resources here, just small time family farms. And if you explore that, you can find these people. One of our favorite apiaries is Just Bee apiary. It's in Vesuvius, right? Yeah.
They're relatively
New, they're
Yeah.
growing.
So Britt and Hannah are their names. Yes.
Here, we can hear your wife, but you're a little bit more difficult to hear over here.
She's always loud. So I'll try to speak up. No.
I think you should call that assertive.
Yeah, assertive, not loud. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Well, my wife and I, we do this a little bit ourselves too, but when I describe that to people, plant-based, for the lady, I just sum it up as you eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, legumes.
Yes, absolutely.
That's like that little fiber, that covers everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you can get all the nutrients that you need from a plant-based diet. As far as protein, you can get all the protein that you need as long as you have a wide variety of plants in your diet. The only nutrient that you cannot get naturally, that we do not naturally synthesize, would be B12. And B12 is a bacteria, and no animal, and humans and animals do not naturally synthesize this. So we encourage you to take a supplement. A lot of higher end brands of nutritional yeast will have vitamin B12 in it, and we use a lot of nutritional yeast in the things that we prepare. So we need to get out of the way of thinking that certain foods will offer certain things. So I need to drink milk to get calcium, or I need to eat meat to get my protein. Because somewhere in there, there's a middleman, and it's if a cow can produce its own protein by just eating plants, then we can produce our own protein as well. And so you don't want to look to individual foods either to get your nutritional basis off of. So you don't want to look to broccoli to get your calcium. You don't want to say, well, I need to eat a lot of broccoli to get calcium. What I want to do is I just want to eat a wide variety of this plant-based diet, and you can get absolutely everything that you need. But we strongly recommend that you do supplement with a B12 for sure. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
When you were transitioning, I know for me, my big thing is going to be dairy and butter and oils as a start. Do you suggest maybe certain things to slowly bring it down, or because I think my problem is going to be cold turkey with dairy and all the products.
When we first did our program, we used Arbonne, which we will touch on briefly. And they eliminate the top 8 allergens, which dairy is one of, and then they also eliminate other food groups that cause inflammation. But one of the things that they do allow you to have is ghee, because it has the milk fats removed. So it sort of gives you, the feel of butter when you're cooking, without some of the inflammation. Some people don't like the way that ghee tastes, though. There is a little bit of a different taste to it. So that's when we started cooking predominantly. Yes, Ghee.
Yes. I particularly didn't like the taste of this highly refined butter.
Right.
That it clarified. So we recently made our own. It's an almond milk based, basically a vegan spread. And with the addition of nutritional yeast, a little bit of salt, and I think it's a little of the sun cocoa oil. Like, we try to stay away from the oil, but it's a lot better than the other stuff. You get palm oil and a lot of vegetable oils and the stuff at the store. And we were really surprised at how close this tasted to actual butter. And we made it with ourselves. We made it at home ourselves. And we have...
It lasted about a week, so you
Yeah.
could probably make a batch and then just keep it for the week. To go back to your question, though, I think that, at least from my personal opinion, if you are going to switch from something that has one ingredient, like butter, okay, to something that has 15 ingredients so that it tastes like butter, I think that you should at least have a question, is this better or isn't it better? If I use less of this in a moderate fashion, then, where does that lie? So as you're transitioning, I think that it's sort of up to you. Any step you make in the right direction is going to be beneficial. So if you can get rid of the cheeses and you can get rid of the milk, if you're still using a little bit of butter, I think that you've made a significant improvement. There are, like Jeremiah was saying, there are cheeses that you can make at home. They do have commercial vegan cheeses that are really pretty good. But just check the ingredients, because you don't want to switch 15 ingredients for one ingredient.
Yeah. Because the front can say one thing, but when you flip around and look through the ingredient list, it totally contradicts everything that the front says sometimes.
Okay, so if we can switch, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because I'm new to this, it's only been 5 months that I've been working on this with this diet. It's not meant to be a punishment. So don't think of taking away all of the good stuff that you like, because if you're punished, who's going to stay with it?
Right.
If you have to take, 4 days or a week to get this down, then take those 4 days or a week. Don't just throw everything out in the trash because, one, it's expensive.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we suggest transition over a period of two weeks. And when we say cold turkey, it's going to take about 2 weeks to really transition into this. If this is the eating habit that you want to create for the future.
All right, so we'll take a look now at this pan. You can see that the onions are getting translucent. They have been steaming really well, so there's actually no demonstration on how it sticks to the bottom so that we can show you with the broth as it would have it. But we are at the point now where we're going to add our garlic. So if you're cooking at home and yours looks similar to this, go ahead and add the garlic. And they say to cook the garlic for about a minute or a couple of minutes until it becomes fragrant. So we'll give that a good stir around. how's your pan doing? Are you having fun?
Oh, yeah.
We love volunteers that are voluntold that they're going to help.
Hey, that's my life at home. I'm voluntold quite a bit, so.
Well, wonderful. So,
So a little history on me. I'm a prior Marine. I'm a retired U.S. Marine. I was in really, really good shape back in the day, and I still consider myself to be in pretty good shape. But then, based on the diet that I have, even though I was in good shape and I was young, I wasn't healthy. I consider myself now healthier than I've ever been in my life, as far as my mental faculties, my overall the overall way that I feel. How would you describe this? It's
you can be unhealthy and be thin.
yeah, you can be
You know?
unhealthy and thin and in shape, but I'm not as in shape as I was back then. But I am a lot healthier than I was back then by doing a plant-based diet. And Sarah and I are still on our journey. We're still on our journey. We're not completely there yet.
We are going to now add the herbs. So in here we have thyme from our garden that maybe you can show it the camera a little bit easier. So this is thyme and sage from our garden. It has survived the snow. So we're going to give that a stir around. One of my favorite herbs that I always make sure to grow is lemon thyme. So if you're not familiar with that, I would definitely recommend adding that to your herbs. I really enjoy its taste in soups. It sort of brightens things up. And then we are going to add our potatoes. A lot of potatoes. So this is 2 pounds of potatoes. Sorry? Any potatoes will work. I personally like the red potatoes in this because I feel like the skins look really pretty. I do leave the skins on because there's some good nutritional elements to having the skins. And then before that gets too fun, we're going to give our
I'm gonna answer
broth.
it. Teresa, you had a question?
I was going to say, if you're using dried thyme, what would the exchange
Equivalent be?
be?
You know, we talked about that and I meant to look it up. Heidi, do you know the answer to that?
It's typically like 1 to 3. So if it's 3 teaspoons of fresh, it would be 1 teaspoon of dried.
Okay.
Some, like basil, is 1 to 2. So, but you can look it up and find it easily on Google.
Thank you.
But Sarah, I had a question because you said you were adding 2 pounds of potatoes, but the recipe card says 1 pound.
Well, then they're going to have a lot of potatoes.
I'm just questioning, is the recipe card incorrect?
The recipe card may be incorrect. My original recipe did call for 2 pounds. So this is the second typo that I've caught so far on that. But yes, so I typically do about a half a bag of the red potatoes, which is a 5-pound bag. So it's actually a little bit more. But
'cause
yes, so this is
I've
going to be.
tried a batch from your recipe and it doesn't have that many potatoes. That's
Okay.
why I was wondering.
Well, yes. So we're
Okay.
going to have.
It's still delicious.
It's still delicious either way, but yes, thank you. So if you are at home, you may want to add some extra potatoes or just stick with the recipe. I think that what happened was when I took the chicken out, I replaced it with potatoes, and I just didn't make the transition. Sorry about that.
It's pretty much muscle memory for her at the house. I mean, she can whip this soup out in a matter of 15 minutes with all of the chopping and everything. So.
Going to do pepper, and this is sort of by eye also. I think Heidi and I had this discussion the other day. It's kind of hard to tell people how to cook when you're cooking because we just sort of do it naturally. So we're going to use probably about a half a teaspoon of pepper. With salt, I am going to go light on the salt tonight because I don't know where people are. We will have salt that you can add yourself. So if you are cooking at home, go ahead and add salt depending on what broth you're using. So the broth that we have actually has salt in it. And so I won't usually add salt until the end when you taste it and you don't know what the potatoes are going to do with it, whether you'll need more or not. But I've definitely made this soup too salty by having broth and then adding salt in.
Just once.
Just once. But this is my son's favorite soup, so we try not to mess it up too often. Right. So what we're going to do is we are going to continue to stir this and bring it up to a nice simmer and boil, and then we will put the lid on, and Jeremiah and Michelle are going to start working on our salad.
All right, cool. All right, so we're doing a kale pear salad tonight with it's a maple syrup vinaigrette. So we have fresh pears here. I feel these pears are a little ripe, so when we cut them, we're going to try to leave some of the skin on them so they don't get mushy in the kale. And something that I've